Hello everyone, my name is Hunter Peoples and I'm a survey statistician in the Mountain Region. Today I'll be going over a section of the ARMS 3 questionnaire titled Type of Organization. So you may be wondering why we asked for this information in the first place. Well, over the nation's history, farms have become larger in acreage, production, and revenue. According to the USDA's Economic Research Service, the midpoint for cropland acreage went from 650 acres in 1987 to 1,200 acres in 2012. Because of this, the traditional family farm has gone from one farm, one farmer, one household to partnerships and corporations. One of the reasons farms have gotten larger is risk management, and some ways to accomplish this is a reliance on contracting and federal crop insurance. So when the Census of Agriculture and the ARMS survey collects information on expenses and insurance, that data helps ERS determine what farm programs should be funded more, and that contributes to policymaking in Congress. ERS also studies how changes in the tax code can impact farmers using data that we collect from ARMS. So now that I've mentioned family farms, let's talk about what they are. An operation is a family farm if at least 50% of the operation's assets are owned by the principal producer and their household or any other relatives related by blood, marriage, or adoption. On the other hand, an operation is not family owned if more than 50% of its assets are owned by people unrelated to the principal producer in any of the ways I just mentioned. That is, someone who is not related to the principal producer, their household members, or their relatives through blood, marriage, or adoption. So let's move on to question 2, which is asking the total number of owners the operation has. Here, we want to include everyone, regardless of residence and relation, who owns the operation. However, be sure to exclude landlords, contractors, and lending institutions if the operation has debt. Question 2A is asking for the percentage of ownership that the principal producer and their household have. So for question 2A, we are excluding relatives and other family living outside the household. Let's move on to question 4, which is asking for the legal structure of the operation. As you can see, there are 5 options, including an other option. You would select option number 5 if the operation is an estate, trust co-op, grazing organization, or something else. If the operation is a C corporation or an LLC, question 6 asks if the operation chose to file as a C corporation. Additionally, question 6A asks for the corporate dividends received by the principal producer and their household. I wanted to define some of the options in question 4 here. You'll most likely see operators report their operation as family owned. This kind of operation has no partners or shareholders, and the operator or operators are considered self-employed. Thus, they are taxed as an individual operation. In a C corporation, owners and shareholders are taxed separately from the entity itself. That is, the corporation is like an individual who can own property, incur debt, and be held liable. Shareholders of C corporations are not held liable and appoint a board of directors to manage the corporation. Similarly, an S corporation is considered an individual as well. However, instead of being taxed at the corporate level, they have the benefit of being taxed as a partnership or sole proprietor. That is, any profits earned are usually taxed at the level of the shareholders rather than the corporation. I know there's been some confusion in the past about what classifies an LLC. A limited liability company, or an LLC, is defined as a business organization that provides limited liability for owners at the state level. This can apply to businesses with a single owner or multiple owners. However, if an LLC has a single owner, it is not considered an LLC and should be classified as a family or individual operation in question 4, which is option number 1. If the single member of an LLC is a corporation, then the operation should be classified as either a C corporation, option number 3, or an S corporation, option number 4. Question 7 is asking for the percentage of the net farm income that the principal producer and their household were entitled to during the year. If an operation is family owned, the principal producer and their household are going to be entitled to most, if not all, the net farm income, unless other family owners outside the household were reported. But generally, If the principal producer and their household own more than 50% of the operation's assets, they are entitled to more than 50% of the NFI. If the operation is an LLC, then the household share of the net farm income should be reported here. This question should be skipped if the operation is a C corporation or an LLC that chose to file as such, since the share of the corporation's NFI was reported in question 6A. Let's look at an example. Let's say two people are married and are owner-operators with no other partners. Therefore, their operation would be classified as a family operation, which is option number 1 in question 4. Let's say they're not an LLC. Because they are a family operation with no other partners, let's say they're entitled to 100% of the net farm income. Given these parameters, how would the respondent or enumerator fill out section? For question number 2, the respondent would record 2 owners, the married couple. For question 2A, they would record 100% because they are the only owners and they live in the same household. For question 5, the respondent would mark no, since no other households share the NFI. In other words, there are no outside owners or partners. For question 6, since the operation did not file as a C corporation, the respondent would mark no. For question 7, they would record 100% since they are the only owners and are entitled to all of the net farm income. Let's look at another example. Assume there are 2 owner-operators unrelated by blood, marriage, or adoption. Because of this, let's say their operation is classified as a legal partnership, which is option number 2 in question 4. If each own half the operation and are entitled to half the net farm income, how would the respondent or enumerator fill out section? For question 2, the respondent would record 2 owners, the unrelated operators. For question 2A, they would record 50% since they are the only owners and do not live in the same household. For question 5, the respondent would mark yes, since one other household shares the net farm income. Therefore, for question 5A, they would record one other household sharing the net farm income. For question 6, since the operation did not file as a C corporation, they would mark no. For question 7, they would record 50% since the principal producer and their household are only entitled to 50% of the net farm income. To sum up what we've talked about, knowing the legal structure of farm operations helps the USDA to distribute benefits fairly. While farms have grown in size and income over the years, it's still the case that 98% of America's farms are family-owned, which means 50% or more of the operation's assets are owned by the principal producer and their household. There are 5 options for the type of legal structure of the operation. If it's a C corporation or an LLC that chose to file as a C corporation, then the share of the NFI comes in the form of dividends. So ask question 6 if this is the case. In most cases, especially with family farms, question 2A and question 7 should be equal. But if the operation is a C corporation or an LLC that chose to file as such, then question 7 should be skipped because their NFI share is reported in question 6A. I hope this has been informative. Thank you and good luck with ARMS 3 this year.